So yeah, just a quick, if I could figure out how to change the slide. Okay, cool. So just a quick background about myself. I'm a senior offensive security consultant at a company based in the United States. I got my OSCP in May of this year, and my main focus, as far as pen testing activities, are all things network tech that comes to the OSCP. And the first one is who is the exam for? So it's kind of split up into three categories where it's people that are already pen testers and looking to get that, the promotion, more money, what have you. So already a pen tester and want to get that promotion. And that's what I did, where for me to get promoted to become a senior consultant was to have my OSCP. Looking back on it, it's like I probably should have had, something else or a little bit higher, but the OSCP was a requirement at my company. The next group of people is those people who are looking to become pen testers. So I was lucky where I was already working as a pen tester and got my company to pay for the exam, but that's not always the case. So definitely, like, if you're looking to get into pen testing and struggling to get into it, as far as like using or having it as a career, take a look at the OSCP. I know it's expensive, but it'll definitely help you get noticed a lot more. And then lastly, it's anybody on the blue team that kind of wants to understand a little bit more about how pen testing works, what kind of exploits people see in their networks, especially when they're gigantic enterprises that have a bunch of outdated systems. And yeah, and then why the OSCP? So I kind of talked about this already, but it's one of the most sought after certifications by United States-based companies. So every time I get a LinkedIn message from some recruiter, it's always saying, "Hi, I saw that you have a lot of experience and you have your OSCP. These are two requirements that we have. So, would you like to apply for our job?" Um, the next thing I will say is, as much as people, talk badly about it, I did think it was a fun certification. The course was great, um, to an extent, and just like overall, like even though I was awake for 24 hours straight of doing testing plus another 12 hours of recording, um, I did have a fun time. And it does teach some of the basics of some very interesting attacks like the MSSQL attacks, so like XP command shell, XP directory, malicious macros in Microsoft documents, and so on and so forth. And then after these two questions, I just came up with a quick little like pros and cons list of what I found to be like a good thing versus a bad thing within the exam. So I don't think it's a beginner level certification. You can fight me on that all you want, but I do not think that it's actually a beginner level certification. I think it's an intermediate level. It'll definitely help you get more recognized when you're job hunting, which is another big thing. Because the OCP will help you get that money that you want. Companies will pay for you to get it if you already have a job with them. My company did, luckily. Plenty of others do. A lot of the time on job requirements, I'll see like, either you must have the OSCP or you must be able to obtain it within 6 months of starting a job at, whatever company. And I also think it's easy enough where people that are network pen testers don't struggle so much with the web app attacks and vice versa. So I think it's a good mixture of the two. And you're not going to struggle that much. Like, yeah, if you're a network pen tester, you might struggle with some of the web app stuff like I did. Or, you're a web app tester, but you're not going to struggle all that much with the network-based attacks. Some of the cons, it is expensive. It's very expensive. If I had to shell out I don't even know how much it is now. I think it's almost 1,700 US dollars. So I think that's about 2,000 euros or so, maybe a little bit more. It's expensive. There's not much else to it. I don't know how the new exam is with the OSCP that came out in November, but when I was taking the course, it was a little bit outdated. And something else I didn't really like was they teach you how to use Metasploit, they teach you how to use Nessus, and they teach you how to use SQL Map, yet you can't use any of those tools on the exam. So not exactly sure what the whole purpose was there, but who knows? The next thing also was some of the attacks and the reporting style are not realistic. So like some attacks you're never going to see on a network, especially some of the attacks that I saw, like SE impersonate privilege. I've never seen that on a network. That could be different for different pen testers, but when I'm doing tests, I've never seen that privilege on a Windows system. The report as well, at least how we report in the United States, it's, you have a finding, so say it's curb roasting. You write about curb roasting, you add your screenshots in, that's the finding. OSCP is a little bit different. You're talking about how you got the user flag on the machine, how you got the root flag on the machine, and you're not like splitting it up into findings, you're splitting it up into hosts themselves. So it's a little bit different. It's interesting. I'm not a huge fan of it just because it was really weird trying to get used to that reporting style. But overall, it wasn't, the end of the world. And then the two other big things that I really just hate about the exam are the intentional rabbit holes. I understand why they put them in there. Don't get me wrong. Just I think that when you only have 24 hours to test, they shouldn't be doing, 6 or 7 rabbit holes on one machine. I have, out of the 6 machines in the network on my exam, I want to say I had about close to, 15 to 25 rabbit holes. So it was more about like, okay, if this doesn't work in the next 10 minutes, I have to move on to the next thing and hope that this next thing works. So I was setting timers on my computer because you can't have your phone near you. So I would set a timer, set it for 20 minutes, and if I couldn't get something working in that time frame, as far as the initial access or the privilege escalation, I had to move on. And then I would take a note of it and come back to it if there may have actually been something there. And then the last con was it just claims to be an entry level certification when it's not. There has to be some level of knowledge before you can even bother taking this exam. That's pretty much all I have for the presentation itself. I really wanted to make this presentation more so that people could ask their own questions and I could give as much feedback as I possibly could, and hopefully some of the other admins or speakers that have taken the exam before.
Okay, so I have a question for you.
Absolutely.
How do you think that because there are a lot of certifications nowadays, there is a certification basically for everything. But one thing that I have to acknowledge to the OSCP and to all, I think, OPSEC certifications is that the exam format rotates. It's not the same exact format. So cheating, how do you think cheating is handled by OPSEC? Do you think that the certification has like an extra value because of how cheating is threatened?
Yeah. Cheating is, they make it harder by rotating the exams. So say, you and I take it the same exact day, it's more than likely we're going to have 2 completely different exam scenarios. So, I could have the whole Active Directory environment, and it's a completely different attack scenario and attack path to get up to domain admin. And then the standalone machines, I could have 3 Windows and you could have 3 Linux. So they try and make it completely different in that sense. Unfortunately, there are people that do sell their answers. So, you sell your answer to some person that ends up selling a whole package of the 10 different possible OSCP sets. So somebody says to Proctor, I'm going to go take a break. They can just go look at their phone and view all the answers quick and then go back to it. So like it does stop it to a certain extent. But the other thing too with the cheating is if somebody cheats on their OSCP exam, it's more than likely that you'll figure it out like fairly quickly, especially if they start working at your company. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, totally. It was a perfect answer. Thank you.
Okay, someone is writing. While he's writing, I have a question. Um, the material of the course, do you think it's enough for the exam, or I need to integrate with other resources like machines on the box or other stuff?
Yeah, so I definitely think you should do your external learning as well as like while you're taking the course. I did two Hack the Box Pro Labs. I did. There's a former employee of offensive security. His name is TJ Null, Null. He came out with a list of Hack the Box machines that are like good to help you prepare for the OSCP exam. So I went through that entire list. I think there's about 30 machines or so. So I went through the entire list. I did the two Hack the Box Pro Labs, which was a bit of overkill, but I was like, I can't fail this exam, on attempt one. I have to pass it because I won't take a fail as a response. So I definitely suggest like doing your own like external learning and research and going forward with that because I think it'll help you be like a more well-rounded tester. So when you hop into this exam, it's like, oh, okay, I know what I'm looking for right here. Here's the exploit for this. Okay, great. And even if you do the external learning and it doesn't really help, I mean, it's going to help you somewhere else.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So,
Yeah,
we have.
it's nice. Thank you, Elemental, for your talk. I think you did a good presentation, and I do also have some questions. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was
Yep.
wondering, what do you mean when you say it's not an entry-level certification? What do you think the prerequisites for this certification might be?
So when I say it's not an entry level certification, I mean it's not like say like you have no prior knowledge of hacking, web applications or networks or anything like that. Like you don't even know like how to run Nmap. And that's kind of how they brand it, where they have the material in the course that like teaches you how to use Nmap, how to use some web application tools, how to use certain things like that. But I don't think it's an entry level certification. If you take a look at a company called eLearn Security, they're now owned by INE. They have the EJPT, which is the Junior Penetration Tester, which I think is definitely more geared toward the people that have no knowledge whatsoever.
Okay, so we have some questions from the chat, and I'm gonna read
Oh,
them
yep,
for you.
awesome.
Thank you, by the way, Element.
Yeah, no worries.
So I have a CRTA, Certified Red Team Expert. I'm good
Hmm.
at Active Directory. How far I can get with only Active Directory? I mean, I'm better at web. Um, Go on.
Okay. Yeah. So when I took the exam, it was split into two sections. So each standalone machine. So there's six total machines, three in Active Directory in the environment. So two workstations and a domain controller. You had to get from your initial access all the way up to domain admin, and that would only get you 40 points out of the 70 that you need to pass. The other three standalone machines are 10 points per flag. So you get your initial access, that's 10 points. You get privilege escalation, that's 10 points. So each standalone machine is worth 20. Um, so if you only do the Active Directory portion, you're not going to pass. Generally, the web attacks though are you look up an old version of some content management system that it's running, and you're going to find like, you know, an authenticated RC, and you just have to find the credentials to the application. It's not some wild exploit that you have to do. The craziest thing that you might see is a SQL injection, but those are pretty rare. I didn't have one on any of my machines that I had to do. Actually, now that I think about it, all of my machines were more network-based attacks than web attacks. Besides like weak credentials on one web application, so it's just like the username was the password. So you could get kind of far, but web, like some basic level of web application knowledge is needed. And it's more so just searching up exploits than it is, you know, like creating some custom payload.
Okay, I think that answered the questions. I'm just gonna add a little thing to that. I did all the OSCP mock exams, the ones that you buy with the OSCP. I still have to do the exam, and so I never had the feel of the real exam, but I did the mock once. And I must tell you that it's not much about it. Like the CRTA is the topics that are in the certified team expert from eLearn, I believe. eLearn security. I don't remember the name. Altered security. Those are overkill for the OSCP. But
Yeah,
one thing that you have to keep in mind that if the attacks are not uh, complicated by design. They can be complicated if they're mixed together and there are a lot of rabbit holes. So easy material doesn't equals an easy exam experience. Maybe like for me, CRTO that has way more advanced topics than CPTS. The exam was a joke compared to CPTS, even though CPTS material is easier to some extent. So next question is from Kwon. What's the value of this exam if the material is not enough, if the labs are not that great and you have to resort to HTB? I mean, yes, it is a HR bypass, but apart from that.
that is a terrific question. That's really all it is, honestly. It's a great way to get recognized because, you know, recruiters and managers alike that aren't like very technical don't understand that the OSCP is just like, okay. Like I actually had an interview, I don't know, probably about a month ago. The manager immediately, like before we, you know, we said our hellos, that was it. And he goes, "How'd you like the OSCP?" And I was like, "I think it wasn't that great." Like, and he was like, I feel the same way. I think it's an overhyped certification, and it really shouldn't be. I can't speak to what they did to the new material changes. So the plus, I know in the United States gives you like clearance for government contracting. I don't really know what else that does, but I do know that like the Active Directory set they give you initial access to, um, which is kind of strange. So I don't know how they kind of mapped it out where like you could just have standard credentials and work your way up. I guess if you know like there's generic write permissions and things like that. But back to your question, yeah, it's honestly just an HR bypass. I mean, I learned a couple things like doing the malicious macros and things like that, but those aren't commonly used in the real world whatsoever.
Okay,
Okay,
very
do
good.
we have any questions?
Yes, I have one.
Uh,
So, let's suppose I already have 2 years of experience in penetration testing. It's still worth to get the OSCP by myself, or should I Or I can, let's say, have a HR bypass. So better
Yeah.
the
So if you
better.
have the experience,
Yeah.
oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, no. I think you have understand the question.
Yeah. So if you have the experience, the OCP like can still help. Especially if you're trying to move jobs, and that's one of their requirements. It's honestly, it's really just the OCP is required by a bunch of companies. You say that you have it on your resume or your CV, and people run to you just because that you have the certification. Really, I think experience itself is the true like testimony to if you're actually a good tester or not. Whereas the recruiters and the managers and all that, they think that if you have the exam or if you have the certification, you're basically the greatest tester of all time. So I mean, it
I,
can't hurt. You have both, so that's the big thing. Is like it can't hurt to have it. Is it worth it? Not entirely.
I would like to add a small point on this one. Can you hear me all?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Uh, like in Italy, I think also in the US and in the other countries, the consultant companies, they need people with certifications because it's easier for them to take contracts. A lot of clients, they require to have some standard certifications like CEH, like the OSCP, and so on. So even if you are a senior pen tester, it is very probable that it will be needed for you to obtain the OSCP or the OSCP or to renew an expired certification if there is an expiration date, so the company can get more clients or can from different public. I don't know the English word for gare. If someone from Italy can translate the
Yeah,
gare,
yeah, I got you. I don't know either. What's the
let's say
Gare.
the races when
yeah.
the companies participate in the public sector in the race of public sector to take the contract from public companies. So some certification are
Consulting,
needed. Sorry? Yes,
like in
consulting companies
consulting.
are
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah. So that's the other big thing too is when you have like those most sought after certifications like the OSCP, like the CRTO, like the CRTE, um, your company will kind of use it as like their own marketing tool and say like, look, our pen testers have these certifications. This is why you should buy a pen test from us and not, these guys over, next door.
Yeah, I
So
would say
it's
here in
it's
it.
big.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, 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 you're good. Go ahead. I was just
Uh,
saying like it's a big thing.
yeah, here in Italy, we have this kind of way of getting a contract from another company, which needs these penetration tests in order to get like a compliance certification on their own. So they just you need to if you have OSCP, you clearly have an advantage against other companies which apply on this kind of contract. So the company, let's say OSCP gives you 10 points more than the other companies which try to apply for this contract for these other company which needs the penetration test. I don't know if you understood what I said.
Right.
It's
Yep.
it's kind of complicated here in Italy. We have some kind of mafia for these things. But yes, no, I was kidding, obviously. But yes, it's like that. If you have these kind of certifications, even I would say for blue team, there's the INE, the Learn Security, the older certification, which are, I think, incident responder, threat
Yeah.
hunter.
Incident responder, threat
Yeah,
hunter, malware researcher, something like that, or it might
yeah,
be malware developer.
yeah. Basically, if you have these certifications, you have a good chance to get a contract with another company. Yes, to sell your service, your SOC service to another company. And the same is for SCP, and especially for SANS certifications here in Italy are great value.
Yeah, the
Both
SANS
from,
courses are, as well in the United States. Just those are very expensive.
yeah, SANS is obviously it's this kind of certification, only your company can buy that for you, even because they are too expensive. Even OSCP is too expensive for me. It's I don't know. It's like one of my year salary, one month of my year salary is the cost of OSCP for me, and it's too expensive.
Right.
I can, if I have a family, if I have a house, bills to pay, it might be difficult eventually. You know.
Right. Yeah, that's the other thing too. I honestly think that it's just way too expensive for what it actually is. Um, if they set the price at $500, or I think that's probably about 650 euros. I think that'd be a lot better of a pricing than being in the low thousands, where you're not really getting that much value out of the exam itself.
Okay, so does any one of the speakers have any questions? Because we have some from the chat. We have 3 for now. If you want, I can start to read them for you. So, how would you compare technical certifications like OSCP and or CPTS to more traditional credentials like college degrees in terms of value to an employer? Would you say cybersecurity is an industry in which certifications are prioritized as opposed to traditional degrees for hiring penetration testers? Are they even that important nowadays? I think that Horace Grant can answer that question very well, but I will leave it to Element.
Awesome. Yeah, so I have both a college degree and the OSCP. So at least in the United States, like, the degree helps you get the job and the certification helps you get the money, is what we like to say. But also, my current boss, my old boss, my current manager, and another old boss all don't have degrees. Were in the military for 20 years doing special operations. One got hurt, so he switched from special operations, like actually like going to the Middle East and doing some things he's not allowed to talk about, to like hacking as like a nation state, for America. So that's where he got a lot of his experience. So he was in cyber warfare, really. So I think it's definitely more about the experience that you have in terms of getting a job now. But like, if you're 20 something, you have no experience, I think the degree, like the actual like college degree, will help you get that initial like foot in the door. But then after that, nobody cares about your degree. They want to see what certifications you have. They want to see how much experience you have, and that's what they really care about. So I think, like, yes and no. There's also somebody else I work with. He's a year older than I am, and he never went to college. He started out as working as like a IT help desk person in high school, and then moved on to a SOC, and then heard about pen testing and physical pen testing, and the doors just open from there. So it really depends on each person, because everybody's got a different story as to how they got into pen testing, which is very cool to think about.
Okay, that was a perfect answer. I will continue with the next question. It's from Phone for Fun. So with no prior experience and a degree with a CCNA, but no experience, would it make sense or be ideal to do bug bounties in vulnerability disclosure programs and obtain OSCP. I know experience for sure is best, but will bug bounty supplement this?
Absolutely. I think bug bounties are great. I personally don't, partake in any bug bounties just because I suck at web app hacking. I hate it. But do not let that stray you away from doing it. I think bug bounty programs and building out your own home lab are the two greatest ways to get experience when there's really no other way to get experience. I love it. I think it's a great idea. Somebody I actually went to college with is on Bug Crowd. He's somewhere in the top 20 at the moment for P1 disclosures. So it's like critical disclosures. So yeah, I honestly think it's a great way to get into hacking and get the experience that you need. Just be careful with the certain things that you do, because there could be legal repercussions from it. But yeah, it's definitely a great way. And eventually, down the road, go for the OSCP, go for the CRTO, do what you think is best for you.
Okay, thank you so much. So we have the next question from Rina. Hi, thanks for this session. Thank you for joining. My question is more about technicalities. Elaborate on your own methodology for information gathering and enumeration. If you can't crack a box, then surely we miss something, right? What do you do then? What is the method to move away from the roadblock and look the other way? Can you give some example, please? Or go to IPSec rocks, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody does have a different methodology. The way that my company does our testing, we send a little like Raspberry Pi with Kali Linux installed on it. So we're doing our remote attacks. When we do the red teams, we'll go through the whole process of phishing and establishing a connection on a Cobalt Strike. But for general pen tests, it's your remote testing. So we run tools like Nmap. I like using NetExec to identify some of the hosts that have SMB enabled, kind of figure out what domain I'm looking at. Are there other domains in this forest? Is it just one big domain? Is it 10 little tiny domains? What is it? So I like really narrowing it down with those two tools first, and then during our external phase of testing is when I'll start trying to identify users. So there's a bunch of tools to help you enumerate those users. God, I can't even think of the name of them right now, but that's what it's called. It's called CredMaster. So it'll help you enumerate Office 365 users if they are syncing between Azure and on-premises Active Directory. Sometimes their naming scheme doesn't line up, so it might not be elemental.hacking as my on-premises username, but it could be like my email username. So there's different things like that. Next thing I look through is the domain controllers. Is there an RPC null bind? Can I enumerate users, by authenticating to the domain controller with no credentials? Or do I have to use curb root to start using kind of like guesses to figuring out which username is valid and which isn't? So that's like more just kind of making a lay of the land, getting usernames so I could start password spraying. Password spraying is the biggest thing. I've actually gotten domain admin a few times just by password spraying. And it's company name, the year, and an exclamation point, which is really bad. But I've seen it before, which is very scary. And then if I can't crack a box, so at least for the style of testing that I do, my company does, we don't go after like individual machines. It's more the whole network as a whole. Is there Active Directory certificate services, installed and in use? Can we exploit a certificate to get domain admin? So a lot of the time, it's not like we're fully touching a host. We're more going after the big vulnerabilities. And then if we do end up finding like a host based vulnerability, then we're going to go after it and see where like what kind of access that can get us. So say it's Eternal Blue, things like that. We'll definitely go after it. If we can't get to it, I'm going to spend probably the next 12 hours trying to figure it out. If I can't get it, then I'll move on to something else. But the other thing that's great too about our network tests are there's always two people, so a senior and a junior, always on a test at a time. So if I'm focusing on something that I think is going to work, or I'm hoping is going to work, and I spend the next 12 hours on it, at least there's somebody else still testing, doing other things, just to make sure that we get full coverage for that, for the test, and it's not like I just missed out on 25 things.
Yeah. Do you mind if I jump in? If I add
Yeah,
something?
go for it. Absolutely.
If you can't crack a box, you mean I think that RENA means during the OSCP or CTF like style.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I misread that.
No, it's okay. It was also interesting. What were you saying? But I would also say go to sleep. This is one of the best thing I've ever learned in my entire life. If you can't do something, sleep like 30 minutes, 1 hour, and then get back and try to do something new. You have to have a new point of view on the machine and on the problem. And I think that was a good quality advice. It was for me the first time, and I hope this will be also for you.
Absolutely. Going back to that too is even just taking a walk. There were plenty of times during my OSCP exam where I just stood up, went outside, took my dog for a walk for a half hour, came back, and I was like, wait a sec, this makes sense now. Let me try this,
Yeah,
and the exploit would work.
yeah, I got
So
you.
a lot of the time, like if you hit that roadblock, step away from it for at least 30 minutes, and a lot of the time, your mind will clear up, and you might see something that you missed before.
Yep. Moving forward with the next question. After achieving OSCP, would you engage with OffSec further, both on a personal and professional scale? Do you think further courses and certifications such as OLZEP, OZ, and OSWE, and whatnot could help achieving higher level positions or any other advantage? Or would you suggest to learn advanced material somewhere else, perhaps cheaper? What do you think?
So the only case I would say continue going with the offensive security certifications is if you're going for the OSCE, which is you have OSEP, OSED, and OSWE. So you have to have those three certifications. So there goes at least 5,000 or 6,000 euros just to get like the gold star status or whatever you want to call it, where you've gotten through all three of their hard exams. I don't think it's worth it, honestly. If your company is willing to pay for it, or you just won the lottery, go for it. By all means, go for it. But if not, if they're not going to shell out the $6,000, you didn't win the lottery, go for something that's cheaper and more useful. A lot of the time, I like going to conferences where they do trainings, pay the $400 or $500, and I get a lot more information and value out of those. I don't even know like what the next certification I'm looking at is at the moment, but there's plenty of other cheaper certifications that will give you a lot more value than offensive security will. And if any of the other admins want to jump in and speak to that.
Yeah, I will add something to that. So, personally, because we are talking like offensive OffSec, it's mainly doing penetration testing certifications. So penetration testing certifications and red teaming certifications are two different things. So maybe like you get the CRTA from Altered Security and you see a lot of cool material, like a lot of fancy Active Directory attacks and I don't know, maybe ADR evasion and stuff like that, and you say to yourself, oh, but uh, uh, I don't know, OSCP that doesn't cover that kind of stuff. But you need to think that one is a red teaming certification and one is not. So uh, once you do like the, as Elemental said, the OSCP free certification, that's a really, really good achievement and it's really recognized from the HR managers. And but I think that in terms of material, I have completed and Meta too, so he can give his opinion on the course of Hack the Box new certification, which I will definitely talk about in the future once I get my hands on the cert. And I have never took in my life a better course than that. Like the clarity and the documentation behind each attack is really impressive. So if you're looking for something cheaper and you're just hungry for knowledge, then just go for Hack the Box, in my opinion.
I think we should get paid from Hackable Box.
Yeah,
I've done
definitely.
so many sponsorship to them.
Yeah, I would say there are three types of certification in this world. The ones which gives you a good advantage with HR. The ones which teach you a methodology like CRTO. CRTO tries to teach you the red team mindset and methodology, and the other certification, the last one, is the certification which tries to teach you the with a deep knowledge what's inside the vulnerabilities and the all of the attacks. I don't know if you guys agree with me.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
Totally.
So HTB gives you this deep knowledge on attacks. Certification like CRTE, CRTO, and other CR, so Certified Red Team, and blah blah blah, gives you this kind of methodology mindset, and other certifications like OSCP and Sons gives you recognition from HRs and companies.
I must add something on because for me, in my opinion, when we are dealing with red teaming, of course, a deep knowledge about Active Directory is essential, and developing tools at the same time. So I think that if you're looking for penetration testing all around, Act the Box does an excellent job in doing that. But for red teaming, I would say that CRTL, I'm now taking the course, and in terms of OPSEC, is a great course. It's a little bit dry, as Elemental said before. It's a little bit dry. Something could be explained with a little bit more detail. But overall, if you combine the knowledge from some Active Directory attacks from the ActiveVox course and then the red teaming methodology, I think that and some coding skills, then I think you're Turing complete. But remember that some of the attacks that are explained in this course may not work in a real life scenario. Like when I don't know, like some Active Directory attacks require you to have some like privileged account NT alarm hash, which you're never gonna put your hands on in a real life environment if there is like a good AV or ADR solution. Like you're never gonna be able to do a DC sync in a real life environment if it is controlled. And but having knowledge on what are the possible attacks and choosing the correct path in your scenario is, I think, is an invaluable skill. I don't know if everybody agrees with me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, the
It's
other thing that I will suggest too is it's something that's very cheap. So it's not a certification, but you get a certificate from it. Is the Hack the Box Pro Labs. I love them. I know that they just came out with like three or four or five new ones, but they're great. I've actually learned so much from them, as far as Active Directory attacks. Uh, there was one hack the box. There was one pro lab that I had to do a buffer overflow on, so I had to like relearn how to do buffer overflows, which sucked. But I'm never gonna forget that now. So I think those have a lot of value and kind of prepare you for those further exams. Such as the CRTO, CRTL, CRTE,
Yeah, I
some of the
agree.
cloud ones. I can't even remember what the cloud ones are, but cloud is a big thing now too, especially with the things that I'm seeing. I had an on-site last week, halfway across the country, and it was insane. This company's environment, they were all, uh, based in the cloud. So it was, eye-opening, just like seeing how they have all this working. And it was great too that I had like a decent amount of cloud knowledge to be able to get global administrator.
Yeah, nowadays probably Azure is playing a major role. I have attended some conferences. I went to the Azure Day in Rome, and the technology behind Azure is simply mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the Azure technology is very similar in terms of logic to the on-premise Active Directory that we all know. But yeah, I should definitely study more about cloud security because in the future, probably it's hard. I believe from the statistics that it's hard to find a big company that doesn't have any kind of AD on-prem, but probably hybrid environments are the most popular now.
Yeah, for sure. I was just mind blown last week that they were completely in the cloud. The only on-prem Active Directory that they had was their test environment. Um, but I just dropped a link to like a beginner certification for cloud hacking, that I think is great. It's the boot camp link, but
Yeah, from Altered Security.
mhm,
This is, by the way, I think that Altered Securities is owned by Nikhil Mittal, right? Um,
I believe so. Yeah.
this guy it's insane. Like I know Nikhil Mittal from the videos of Pentester Academy. I don't know if you know Pentester Academy.
Hmm. I do.
It was really popular some years ago. It was owned by Vivek Ramachandran, which is now I think the owner of SquareX, and he's also the probably Meta Noise notice the Cafe Latte attack on web. He's the creator of that attack. So
Right.
kudos to Vivek and Nikhil.
Absolutely. It looks like somebody said, "What is different in Azure Active Directory?" Um, Everything, but like more so. So it's definitely helpful with remote management. Like a lot of companies now are remote. These types of things are great for allowing people to connect to your company without actually being in a building altogether. Um, that's like the baseline thing, but the attacks are pretty different. Like Kaplan said before, though, the logic is all the same. It's just the attacks are much different, and you have to fine tune like some of the way that you're actually going to go about going after a company, when they're fully in the cloud or halfway in the cloud. Um, it's definitely interesting. I haven't had too much experience with it, so I can't speak as a professional about cloud stuff yet. Um, when it comes to on-prem, absolutely. But if any of the other admins want to speak to this, that might have some more experience with cloud.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have enough experience neither. So, but I would say in the near future it will become the main topic, Azure Active Directory and all of these stuff. It's something that will be the main topic because everyone is migrating from on-premise to cloud environments. Even the company I work for is completely on Azure.
Yeah, same with me. I'm completely remote
Yeah,
unless I'm
so
going on site.
anyone else has something to say, something to ask? Admins?
So Rina is typing in the chat. Let's see if he or he, I don't know, he has a question.
Rina.
Bone Labs have also some good labs in cloud. Do you know something, Metal? Did you try something on bonelabs.io?
Yeah, I'm taking. I did the subscription for a month a couple of days ago because I did my first assessment in cloud a month back. It was chaotic for me because it was an internal assessment. The company where I work, and we have more than 300,000 employees in our company. So when I took the assessment, just use Azure Round to obtain the data. I can tell you I lost my mind. I didn't know where to put my hands. I had so many information, so many objects that I don't know. The assessment was good at the end of the story, at the end of the day, but I asked 2 more weeks, extra weeks to finish the assessment. So I understood that I was near to zero on cloud, but I think it was also the enormous amount because we had around 3 million objects on the Azure, and my company is hybrid. But so I started the Pwn Labs a couple of days ago. I took one lab up to now. There are no solutions to the labs. They are just labs. So you go there like in the Pro Labs and you activate the lab and you start doing stuff. But there are some good explanations online on how to fit with some good tips. And I think they are great because you have various scenarios like as breached or in other cases you have to bypass or to steal the MFA token. So, but you need to have some prior experience to not in the cloud, but in general to the pen testing because the logic behind, as Kapla said, is the same, but the techniques are different. So if you know how to do something, you will also know how to search to do it. So even if you don't know the attacks, you will be able to perform them. You will lose the whole day maybe to perform a simple attack, but at the end of the day, you will be able to. I was
I was
thinking
wondering.
about the bootcamp they have. So to take it, if the company will pay for that. So I don't know yet if take the Pond Lab bootcamp or the Alter Security bootcamp.
Yeah,
But
it's good to know that your company support you. I was wondering, is it also fun, the cloud section of penetration testing? Do you find it uh, also fun compared to the classic penetration testing like network and Active Directory?
I'm in love with Active Directory on-prem. So
Yeah,
Same.
I see.
but I think that I will like more in the future the cloud one because a lot of technologies like Kubernetes, like containers, everything you just create the objects, the subscription ID on the Azure, also in the other clouds, and you have everything under the same domain. So the attack surface will be enormous in the next years with the new techniques that will be out in the next years. So I think it's a matter of time, 1 2 years, that I will change my mind and I will go more to cloud than in the on-prem IDs.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will see in the
I mean,
future.
the big thing too is, your social, like when you're running these social engineering campaigns, you're going after people's Outlook accounts, grabbing those tokens so you can bypass MFA and kind of get your foot in the door there. So a lot of the time, if you send malware over an email, it's going to get marked. It'll get picked up very quickly. So phishing for credentials is a little bit easier, but that gives you access into the cloud. Now you got to figure out how to pivot into on-prem from there.
Yeah, that's a chapter for the future.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to say because I'm completely blind on the cloud side of things. Like I only work with AWS once because I was doing a phishing campaign, and that's it. And that's why I work with. I will probably use AWS in the future because now that I'm doing CRTL, I will write a blog on to carry out a very simple, I think, red team, like the initial phase of a red team assessment. So, like the C2 infrastructure setup, the planning, the schema for you're gonna do the things, the developing your custom access loader, and then I will do two kind of demonstration. One is serving the payload, like I don't know, with some basic web technique like HTLM smuggling, and the other one with like physical access with the USB. I don't know. Yeah, that's an idea.
You will have your
Yeah.
house.
Yeah, I will hack probably with like my grandma laptop, something like that, and that's what I will do.
During my on-site last week, I got to use your Bash Bunny payload, and it worked like a charm. So very
What
happy with that as far as
mine?
the physical access. Yeah,
You
that's how I found you. I found you on LinkedIn, saw your
see?
payload, and
Wow,
joined the Discord. Yeah,
that that's making me blush.
and it worked like a charm.
Uh,
But
just because. Oh yeah, sorry. Continue.
I was just gonna say, since they're all connected to Azure, there wasn't any like domain credentials, but I did get local, so
Oh,
happy about that.
nice. Really happy to see that it serves some purpose. And I have a quick question for you all, and that is, what do you think about the new HTTP? Yeah, they should definitely pay us. What do you think about the new HTTP certification? Like, I think, in my opinion, I will just throw it there, that you're gonna tell me what you think. That after the CPTS, they lowered the level because from what I've heard, there are some people that already after 2 days completed the certifications and are now writing the report, which for me is nuts. So there are two, for me, case scenarios. One is that the guys that already completed are completely insane. And the other one is that because I think that Act the Box is trying to get the recognition over the market, over offensive security, the certification now is easier for me. I think that now they're not trying to make an insanely difficult certification because that will because more people take the certification and the more Act the Box will become popular and recognized and stuff like that. That's my opinion.
I think
About it
it's
just
exactly
yet.
the same like you. Oh, so sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just saying I don't know too much about the new certification just yet. I definitely have to read up more about it, but I'm definitely interested in taking a look at it as well as CPTS. I've been considering looking at those just because Active Directory is my favorite thing to test and break and everything under the sun with. So once I get more information about it, I'll definitely be reaching back out to talk to you about it.
I agree on Kapla with what he said before. I think the new certification is easier than CPTS. Of course, you need some prior knowledge to take the exam. Maybe taking CPTS first would be a very good idea, but I think it will be way easier. I was talking with a guy today that a friend of him took the certificate. I don't know if he took the certification, but he told me that he took him like less than 24 hours to achieve all 10 flags. And he said me, actually, it was pretty straightforward. The course was shorter than the CPTS, the only 15 modules, and I will not spoil anything. He didn't spoil a lot to me, but he said it's yes, medium to advanced certification, but it was easier to achieve and smaller than the CPTS. Also, for me, I would say that CPTS was, I will say, difficult because it was a very big certification in the term of not the number of the machines, but you had to do a lot of different attacks from web, internal, pivoting, escalation on the domain, the machines themselves. So you had to do a lot of research, and with some lab problems, it was very stressful to take the certification. But as a last point, I also agree with the second part that Kapla said. I know some people from Hack the Box because they are Greek. I'm Greek, so we have some some past common with some of them. So the last months they are doing some very good steps to take recognitions on their certifications. In particular, in the PDSA certification, the defense one, they are almost ready to get recognized by some US entities, so that will boost them a lot. And the same they are trying to do for the other certifications, and they will be very probable they will be easier for this reason. So more people take the certification, and more recognizable it will get in the next years. So I totally agree with what.
The only one thing I have, because we can all agree that at the box scenarios, anyone who took the CPTS can agree that the scenario is way, but way more complex than the one from SCP. So a complex scenario like that requires a lot of time to develop, to test, to be sure that it actually covers the course material. And inevitably, after 2 years and a half, that is the same exam format, in my opinion, it has less value. But for the simple reason because it's extremely easy to cheat in this kind of exams. But
If I remember well, they will not change the exam. I had asked them these questions, and they will probably do a version 2 of CPTS in the future when they will upgrade when they will change the lab. But I think the certification will not have an expiration, and it will be like something CPTS V2. They had told me something similar. So the exam will not change. It will be retired, but they will change the naming of the certification.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. It's a kind of SCP plus, but for CPTS probably. So that's we have some questions, I believe. Let's read the questions. So,
Yeah, I'm trying to type them out as
okay, so
answers.
you already answered one. So I will read the one from Rina. Do you find that OSCP or other CERTs prepare you for the real world environments? I know that this is suggestive, but security solutions are becoming really good with the non-attack tactics and to some extent behavior. I'll go as far as narrowing it down to the XDRs and penetration testing of not red team. So yeah, you can answer that.
Yeah, I just answered in the chat, but as far as the OSCP goes, it definitely helped me narrow down my methodology. Being dropped onto a network that's, it's got 10 domains in the forest. It helped me like narrow down, what do I want to do? Like, where do I want to go? Like, what are my goals for this test? So it definitely helped that mindset of being like, holy shit, what am I supposed to do here? And turned it into, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to do. Even though it's, 6 machines on the OSCP versus, what could be 100,000 machines on an enterprise network. It really just helped me kind of like narrow down what I want to get out of each individual test. And then the actual attacks themselves, like I said in my message back, maybe 5% of what I saw in the OSCP is something I'd seen in a real environment. And that's mostly like MSSQL, XP command shell attacks. I don't know if you guys want to speak to other certifications that you definitely have more experience with in live environments.
So I don't have much experience on the field because I'm 16, so I don't have much experience. I did a couple of penetration tests and they were all web. I think that the most valuable thing that a certification can give you, other than like the technical part, is the hacker mentality. Like my last penetration test, I did like it, I think, a month ago, maybe a month ago, and it was I had to test a web app, and I went out of scope, my bad. But there was literally this web page, that like by analyzing the session cookie about the web application I was testing, I saw that the session cookie has a specific name. Let's say the cookie name was Kapla. I searched then Kapla on Google, and a login page from, let's say, kapla.com came out, and there were literally the admin credentials suggested to you. So I logged in with these credentials, and that was basically the backend site where you could like manage the backend side of the site I was testing. I was able to basically dump the database and with all the user details, credentials, and stuff like that. But of course, that was my mentor told me that I was not supposed to do that. But that's not something technical. Anyone can do that, but you need to have like that hacking methodology, searching. I never saw that application in my life because it was custom made, and I found a way to dump the database from that. It's all you need to have an objective, and then you need to find a way to reach it, in my opinion. And then, of course, there is all the technical side that you will learn with experience. Like for my case, I started by watching IPSec videos and playing on HDB Academy and the very, very easy machines on the app. Then I switched on more advanced Active Directory courses. Then I did ProLabs. ProLabs made an incredible boost to my overall knowledge on Active Directory in general and C2 frameworks overall. And then I switched more on red team focused labs and AD evasion, command and controls, and stuff like that. So I think that's a good roadmap to follow. So you start easy. Uh, Watching walkthroughs is okay, in my opinion. Unless you just copy paste commands. If you understand what you're doing, it's a win every time for me. If you learn something, and just keep doing stuff. That's the biggest tip for me. Maybe I went a little bit long. Are there any other questions?
Maybe no one else. I think no one else has other questions. Yeah, I've reached 1 hour of of event.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
amazing. I thought,
surprised.
yeah, I thought it would be. Mm,
20
you could
minutes
have done
max.
less time, but that's good. Very
It was
well.
a very pleasurable talk.
Yeah, I
Thank you
bet.
again, Elemental.
Yeah,
Thank you
I
Yeah,
bet.
again.
yeah. Thank you,
Y-
Yeah,
Elemental.
of course. Thank you guys for having me. I had a lot of fun.
yeah, you have done a really great job speaking. You speak very well.
Of course, it does. It's his native language. Good.
Much easier for me.
I was not mean. I was not meaning in English, but to articulate
Okay, to
this
explain.
way, yeah, to explain and articulate your answer, and not just answer and that's it. Mm, you have done a great job with that. Not, I was not talking about English.
Yeah,
No,
also
yeah.
good
I mean, it
presentation.
definitely helps to have uh, like that personal experience. Like seeing those questions, it's like, oh, okay, I already know what I'm going to say about that. You know, um, so having experience as a pen tester, I think, definitely helped me answer those questions
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
better.
yeah. Of course. Okay,
Yeah,
guys.
also I just wanted to thank
So
you.
it's a great conversation. Thank you, Dreamwalker. Thank you for everybody who joined and already left. Thank you to really everybody, especially thank you to you, Elemental, to Orange, to Elle, to Meta, to all the guys who are listening in the audience. Thank you all, and I think we are gonna see each other on the next talk. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you,
good
everyone.
night to everyone
Thank you,
because it's
Elemental,
late for
Awesome.
me.
for your time
Thank you
input
for having me.
on your
It's
presentation
late,
and the
and see you
revelation once again.
guys next time. Okay.
Bye bye.
Good night, guys.
Sounds
Have
good.
a good night,
Bye bye.
everyone.
Bye bye. Good night.
Night.
Good night.